How to deal with overwhelm. Let me cut through the bullshit and go straight in, okay? Overwhelm is caused by two things and two things only. One, lack of clarity. You just don't know what to do. There is no plan, there is no structure, there is no clear outcome on what it is you're trying to achieve. So all of a sudden there are 1,000 ideas and 1,000 things to do and you don't really know where to go, so you're overwhelmed, right? That's one. Second one, and to be honest, this is probably the major issue most of us encounter, and I count myself in it on the same level like you guys, and it is you create overwhelm. It is your making. And here is the reason. The way that I see overwhelm is really when we are in a position when we just don't know what to do, or we are overwhelmed by our own making due to too many choices, no clarity on the right path, questioning everything in front of you, not knowing what it is that you really want. Therefore, you're looking for 1,000 ways to achieve something that you don't even know what it is as the final outcome, right? So today I really want to share with you 3 ways that I deal with overwhelm, and I just hope it will help you a little bit, because when you are in that place, the result of it is quite devastating. What happens usually are 2 things. One, you freeze. You are so overwhelmed and you are just inundated by all these options. You don't even know what to choose and you freeze. You just stop, right? It's like deer in the headlights of a car, right? It's like, oh my God, I just don't know what to do. So you don't do anything, right? The second thing is you start to question yourself. And this is where the highest risk is. And I want to tell you this because, when I work with my clients, when I get into that situation myself, being skeptical and questioning everything is not a bad thing, right? Don't get me wrong. This is actually what makes us find our own voice and how we stand and show up in the world. Because if you are influenced by everybody else, if you are a consumer of social media or you follow influencers or whatever, and you make up your mind based on their mind, then it's not your mind, okay? So skeptical, asking question is a good thing. But when you are overwhelmed, the tendency to start and question everything that you do becomes questioning you. And that's the danger zone. Because when you start to question your abilities, am I good enough? Can I actually do it? And you start to downplay who you are or your potential and your capacity, that is where things really deteriorate, and deteriorate very quickly. This is where many of us will drop the towel and say, game over, it doesn't work for me, and you jump to the next thing. Or worse, you don't jump into anything and you just stay in that frozen place, overwhelmed place, stagnation, or sometimes even deterioration of whatever it is you try to do. Now look guys, when we share these situations in life, this is all based on real life, real experiences. None of this is theoretical. This is not why I have this channel in place, and I really appreciate you being here, watching this and spending some time with me, because my intention in this channel is really to share with you real life. I am so sick and tired of all this self-development bullshit out there that is so general and it is so high up there. You need to be this and you need to be that, and it makes you feel, ashamed or not good enough or whatever the case may be. But the core of all of this, it's not that the advice is not right. Don't get me wrong. I mean, some of it is really, really fundamentally correct, true, and has the essence to really help us. But it's almost like the cover of everything. The internals, the engine, the thing that makes all of this work is you. It's your mindset, is how you see yourself. It's the story in your own head. And this is where I really hope these videos will help you, because I'm trying to share with you what's going on in my head. But over the years, what I was able to do is to actually almost step outside of myself. When I had 3 near-death experiences, it was the most vivid thing in the world. I actually did step out of my own body, and I was able to look at myself from the outside. Question, should I go back? Should I not? What happens? What not? But anyways, I digress. I don't want to go into the near-death experiences because those are really deep. But the lessons learned from those are applicable to everything that we do. You don't need to experience a near-death experience, or you don't need to experience some huge trauma, although most of us have to some degree carry serious traumas throughout our life. Doesn't matter what it is, the residue is still there. So back to the subject of overwhelm. All of those things actually contribute to the way we are wired, and when we are triggered, the response to overwhelm is almost innate. It's almost something that is automatic for us because of what we went through in life, because of the experiences we had, because of the stories that we created around our life in order to support where we are. And I always say this, and this is really important. The stories that support us may have been right at the time when we created them, to protect ourselves, to make sure that we can handle the situation. And that is okay. What may happen is that you are so attached to the story, you don't question it anymore, and you carry it with you throughout life. And let's say 10 years passed since that particular event, trauma, whatever happened in your life. But you are still running your life, and your nervous system is still wired to react to that particular trauma, okay? Now, the story doesn't serve you anymore, but you don't know that because you didn't question it. And a trigger event happened, something that really touched that inner sensitive place in you that response came about. Overwhelm is usually when there are so many things happening and we cannot process what we need to do or how we need to approach it, that feeling of, oh my God, I just don't know what to do. There is so much to do. So let's be real, okay? In life, you create what needs to be done. Okay, there are some fundamentals that you need to take care of. Okay, if you have a family like myself, you have to take care of your kids. You have to probably work and provide for your family. You need to feed yourself, take care of yourself, take care of your partner. Those are kind of the fundamentals. But let's be real. This is not a 24/7 continuous work. You don't have a minute to breathe. You have to do it. I don't know, unless you have 4, 5, 6, 7 kids and they're all home and you're homeschooling and you also work and you're a single dad or a single mom or whatever. I'm not talking about the edge of the extreme. I'm talking about most of us. We do have time. Most of us just don't know how to manage it. We become so ingrained in what we do. And when you look at your actions every day, and this is an exercise I do with my clients, when they start to work with me, we actually do a 7-day hourly schedule and journal every hour what it is that you do. And the results are always, always amazingly overwhelming in terms of how you waste your time most of the time. How many hours you spend on social media, how many hours you watch Netflix and Prime Video, how many hours you just spend doing nothing, okay? But the overwhelm comes in as if I don't have time. That's an excuse that a lot of people carry that process with. I just don't have enough time. There's so much to do. No, there is not so much to do. There are certain things that will move the needle in the areas that you are really focused on. But first you need to know what they are, right? That's why, for me, clarity is the number one thing in everything that you do in your life. That is the one thing of how I deal with overwhelm. As soon as I encounter the situation and see it, I'm in it. First question. Okay, so what is it? Like, what am I trying to achieve here? I need to be clear on what is the outcome, okay? That is usually where most of the work is. Because as soon as you understand what the outcome is, and usually my recommendation is always to have a measurable outcome, be that based on a certain number, certain date, certain physical interaction with it, or an emotional state or an experience, but something you can relate to and measure. Am I there? Am I not there? Am I getting closer? Am I getting further? What is it? So you need to be very clear on that. So the first thing to deal with overwhelm, be clear on what it is you are after and have a clear outcome in mind, okay? That's the first thing. Second thing, for me, it's to capture it. Because if I only do the process in my mind, within 10 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minutes, whatever, something else will come in, another thought will take over, another situation will catch my attention, my little ADHD mind will go somewhere else, and whatever the case may be. So I have to capture it. And for me, I capture it in a safe container. I use mind maps for me because I'm very visual in how I learn. So mind maps is a tool that I've learned over the years to really leverage to kind of help me with the areas that I'm a little bit weaker. But that's the second thing of how we deal with overwhelm. You capture it. You have to write it down and have it in a place where it's accessible so you can review it. You know, it's like when you write your goals and you put them in a journal, or I don't know, you write them on your notes on your phone or something, and they just disappear, right? You don't access them, you don't review them. It's worthless, I have to tell you, because you felt you did something but you're not doing anything. If you cannot remind yourself on a regular basis what it is you're after, re-engage with that clarity and outcome, then, you know, life will show you that there are a million other things that you may need to be focused on or do, and somebody else needs your attention, and all of a sudden you do work for them and it's not you anymore, and it's kind of a vicious cycle that needs to be broken. So first thing to deal with overwhelm, have clarity on what it is you want, what is the outcome, what are you after, and that allows you to start and narrow down this crazy world you live in with all these ideas and things and your to-do list and whatever the case may be. In one of my previous videos, I shared with you an exercise called a brain dump, how to offload everything from your mind, put it on paper, and start to reorganize it in a way that makes sense, and how outcomes can be actually reached in order to understand what you're after, okay? Second thing, as we said, capture it. Capture it in a safe container, somewhere that you can review it and work with it again and again. And the third thing, which I think it's, for some of us, it's just not something we feel comfortable with, right? And it is sharing that outcome, okay? One of the areas that a lot of high performers, a lot of kind of founders, CEOs, business owners that are really gunning for it, right? They're just like A-type personalities, go-getters. They live in their own little world. I can attest for myself. I live quite a lonely life on that front, right? I live with myself on the business side, on the entrepreneurial side, on the achievement side. You know, I'm a guy who goes on solo adventures once or twice a year for a few days to a few weeks at a time because I enjoy being with myself. It's just something I really like. But the idea of sharing outcomes, the idea of having a soundboard, the idea of having someone to reflect on you where you are, be that a good friend, a family member, you know, your partner, your spouse, a coach, a mentor. These are people that we actually need in our lives, because if you try to do this journey on your own, and I understand you may want to separate, you know, personal life, and you may want like an objective person on the outside, you know, like a coach or a mentor or someone, a colleague from work that you can build a trusting relationship. That's a very important piece of this whole journey, is trust, to be able to really say the truth and see where you are and question your own worldview and say, is this true? Because most times it's not. Truth and reality is something that we create by our own mechanisms of how we interpret the world. And that can change all the time. We learn something new, we see something new, we experience something new, and it really affects how we operate on a day-to-day basis. So my friends, I hope this was useful. If you like this type of content, give me a shout out. A like is always helpful here, just so I understand where you're at. You have comments, questions, share them here, and subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and I will see you next time. Have a beautiful weekend. See ya.